Hello my friends and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about clear coats. For me, clear coating is the last step before a kit is considered complete. So what I have here are 6 easy to find clear coats that I found in just regular hobby stores in the United States of America. I just popped in and bought whatever clear coats I found. These are all matte clear coats. I always prefer matte clear coats over gloss clear coats for finishing a kit. So there's not going to be any gloss clear coats covered in this video. This is just for matte clear coating. We're also going to be doing a tutorial on how I do my clear coating before we get into the shootout. So there's going to be a timestamp in the description below if you just want to skip to the shootout. But if you wanted to see my tutorial on how I do my clear coats, we're going to cover that first, and then we're going to go into the shootout of the clear coats. Now, Barbatos Rex already did a video on the subject, and I'm going to put a link to his video in the description below. It's definitely worth your time. There's a lot of information there. I would definitely check it out. But what we're doing on the channel today is we're taking that idea and we're going to go a step further with it, and we're going to finish off 6 kits with these 6 different clear coats and figure out which clear coat really is the best one. We're going to be looking at these clear coats from all aspects, so price, volume, its finish, how well does it level out, its ease of use, ease of control. We're going to look at it from all those aspects to really narrow down which of these top coats that we can easily find in the United States is best to finish off your Gunpla. So before we hop into the tutorial, let me give you a brief rundown of what we're looking at, what we're working with today. This is Testors 1260T Dullcoat. I got this from Hobbytown. This was about $10, and there's 3 fluid ounces within this can of clear coat. Here we have Revell 34102 Clear Coat. This is just matte clear, and there's 3.3 fluid ounces in this. I got this for $10 from the Hobby Emporium in Tyngsboro, Massachusetts. Here we have Tamiya TS80 Matte Clear Coat. I got this from Hobbytown for $10. And there's about 3.3 fluid ounces in this. Here we have Mr. Hobby Super Clear Matte. I got this from Hobby Lobby for $11. And there is 4.4 fluid ounces in this. So about 1 more ounce over the Testors Lacquer, the Revell, and the Tamiya TS80. Here we have Krylon 1311 Matte Clear. I got this from Walmart for about $10, and this has 11 fluid ounces within it. Finally, we have Vallejo Acrylic Matte Varnish. I got this from the Hobby Emporium in Tyngsboro, Mass. This can cost me $14.75, and there's 11.2 fluid ounces within. For the tutorial portion of the video, we're going to be using Mr. Hobby, Mr. Super Clear Matte, as Hobby Lobby seems to be a very popular place within the Gunpla community right now, and this should be relatively available at most Hobby Lobbies. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get into the tutorial, and then we'll get into the clear coat shootout. So this is what you're going to need for this tutorial. I have some toothpicks here because I use these to hold on to smaller pieces, which we'll see in a minute. I have 2 different sizes of masking tape. That way we can mask the joints so they don't get too much clear coat on them and stiffen the joint up too much. These tweezers here for applying the tape. And here we have 2 different sizes of paint clips. So these smaller ones were from Hobby Lobby, and these larger ones were just some alligator clips that I stuck onto some barbecue skewers from the grocery store. These smaller ones are nicer. You get a lot more control and a lot more space to move around in the booth versus these super long ones. I kind of want to cut these down because they're a little bit too long sometimes. That's that. These are a little bit expensive. These are much, much cheaper. You're obviously going to need your clear coat. So here we have Mr. Super Clear that we're using on this Blast Impulse Gundam Spec 2. And lastly, you're going to want something to stick the sticks in. So here I have this old Kshatriya box with a bit of foam put in it. That way when we spray, we can put it in the foam and it can dry. I have seen people use corrugated cardboard and other pieces of foam, things like that. So just anything that you can stab a lot of sticks into, that way they can stay elevated and dry, that will be your best bet. So because the kit is already in pieces from the decaling process, what we want to do is we want to spread the pieces and parts to areas where we can clear them. So I moved these cannons upwards, I moved these arms downwards, So when we do a sweeping motion with the clear coat down here, it's going to fill this valley with clear coat as we do our coverage. The only joint I'm going to cover is this one here. So I'm just going to take a small strip. I'm going to place it right there on the edge. That way the cannons can still connect this part and it's not going to screw it up. And we'll do the same thing for the other side. Now we're going to take our paint clippy and put it on the mounting point for the backpack itself. That way we can spin the part around and get decent coverage all the way around of the backpack. So that is the backpack covered. So for this cannon here, there's a couple things we want to do. This has a split open gimmick, so I'm going to pull the cannon forward, and this is going to open the cannon up. I'm also going to pull on this handle here. That way the handle can get cleared. And I'm also going to open up this hatch here. That way we can get some coverage inside and around. I'm going to tape this joint here and then we'll clip it and move on. Now for the torso, all we really need to cover is these two arm pieces on the side. And that is all set, so move on to the next piece. So what I did with the waist, because it's easy to remove the front and the back skirts, I removed them and I'll clear those separately. I'm going to tape around the joint there for the legs. That way that doesn't get all gummed up with clear coat. I'm going to pin this here. Now you can do this if you have enough painting sticks, but if you don't, then I would do one coat with the skirts opened and then one coat with the skirts closed. But you'll want to do a lighter coat if you have to coat the part twice. Now I'm not masking the joints for these skirts because the extra thickness of the clear coat on the joints is going to help them stay in place better. So you sort of have to build the kit and see what's a little loose, what you might want to tighten up, and then you can use the clear coat to your advantage to tighten those pieces up. Now for the leg, we're gonna push it back a bit till the knee opens and we get more of this type of knee joint here. So that's about as much of the knee as we're going to see. I'm going to move this outwards. I'm gonna tape that joint. And that is how we're going to spin the leg. So you can come in with the can and go down there in this valley here, then on the sides and around, and then on top there. I'm going to remove the shin guard and spray it separately just so then we get full coverage of this shin ankle armor here. So with weapons, what I like to do is I will put the clip where the hand goes. That way, if I'm feeling particularly lazy, the only spot that's going to still have that kind of satin shimmer is only where the hand is going to be, and it shouldn't be noticeable once the hand is holding it. But if you wanted to clear the whole piece, you could do one coat, move it, and then do another coat. But for now, we're just going to go where the hand is for this railgun here. Now I also didn't place the sensor sticker for this one because I wanted it to still be shimmery, so I waited until after the clear coat to put the sticker there, or in my case, I will paint it. Now for the arms here, these are a little tricky. I'm gonna put it in this type of bicep curl type mode. That way we get more of this elbow here, and we just wanna cover everything. And that's why it helps to have two different sizes of paint sticks, because I was able to get this one in there, whereas these bigger paint sticks, I wasn't able to get that in there. That's how that's gonna go. I opened up this top thruster here so I can get inside there, and we should be all set. Now the core splendor does have this clear piece, and I'm just going to remove it. I'm then going to reassemble the core splendor, and that's that. Now this would be a moment where if you have a action base to sacrifice, this would be the time to use it to put into that hole there. But for me, because the canopy's up, nobody's gonna be seeing the seat. I'm gonna clip it to the seat there. And we should be pretty good with the core splendor there. Now because the shield has an opening gimmick, we're going to open it up. Obviously because we want full coverage of everything within the shield here. And then we'll put it directly on the mounting point. So we'll be able to spin it around and get good coverage all the way around. For things like hands, I don't typically mask them because a little bit more strength on the hands never hurt anyway, so I'll just clip them like that and spray them. And that's every single part of the Blast Impulse clipped. So let's move on to actually applying the clear coat. So what you want to do is you want to follow the instructions on every can because every can's a little different. Generally what I do is I shake the can for about 2 minutes. That way it agitates all the clear coat, gets it ready to go. I'll shake around at the bottom, that way all the stuff at the bottom kind of comes up. And then I'll just shake like normal, and I'll do a variation between the two. Now this can says to do a light coat at first, an even, nice light coat. Come back in 30-60 minutes and do it again if you need to. So that's what we're going to do. Some people like to call this a mist coat. We'll do a light coat at first, and then we'll come back and spray again. Now the key thing about clear coats is you don't want to spray too much and you don't want to spray too heavy right away because that's how you frost a kit over. Too much clear all at once is what frosts a kit. You're also going to want a heat and humidity gauge. I don't spray if it's over 75 degrees or 55% humidity. That's what most cans say. I don't even like going over 50% humidity because that's how you get frosting on your clear coat. If it's too high humidity, that's how you get frosting. If it's too high heat, then the lower layer dries a little too quickly than the above layer, and that's how things get a wonky finish. So, rule of thumb for me is not over 75, not over 55. And I always keep that next to my paint booth. That way it's ready to go, and I know if today's a paint day or not. So, let's get into it. I'm gonna turn this on. So we have our can here. We have our blast cannon here. And let's get spraying. So like the can said, we want to do a nice even coat, and basically we go like this. You want to do a nice even coverage, and you want to hold the can 12 inches away. I know it's a little darker, but bear with me. So this is what our mist coat is going to look like. There's going to be a little bit of shimmer to it, and that's kind of what we want. So we want this to dry like this because this is our mist coat, and we're just going to move on to the next piece. So that's all you want to do. Keep it a foot away. Spray nice and slow and concise to get an even first coat for that mist coat there. And then you'll want to move it around. That way you're covering the whole part. If you wanted to wear gloves to keep your hand protected while you spray like this, that's probably a good practice. So our first coat has finished drying. It's been about 45 minutes. It's dry to the touch, but if you can see, the coat is a little splotchy. So that's why we want to do another coat, because we want to do another even coat across the part, which should even out the finish of the kit and give us a fully coated, matte cleared kit. So what we're going to do is the exact same thing that we did in the first shot, where we do another light coat over, and it should even out and have a nice finish. So here we have our Blast Impulse Gundam Spec 2 all off the painting sticks. This kit had a mist coat and then 2 wet coats. So I showed you the mist coat, that was the first coat we did, and the second coat we did was the wet coat. I did another wet coat after that one. I didn't film it just to save you guys some time, but that was just to give it the little bit of extra coverage. Now, when I first showed you the leg after the mist coat, we saw how splotchy it was. I still had a little bit of splotches left over after the first wet coat. So I did another one, and that's how we got a finish similar to this one. This finish looks pretty good. It's not frosted over in any areas, and that's the thing with clear coats. If you keep coating and coating and coating, eventually you're going to frost some parts over no matter what. So I think this came out pretty good. Just as a reminder, this was the Mr. Super Clear matte color. So now that we have our entire kit fully clear coated, what we can do next is we can reassemble it. So we want to take all of our tape off and just reassemble the kit as we disassembled it for decals and top coat. Now see, with this Core Splendor, if we had this canopy attached, we would have to mask it. But just removing it, we have the same effect. And we didn't have to waste a lot of time masking it either by doing that. Now, if you have a kit that's hard to disassemble, that's going to be a time where you want to articulate the kit around. That way you can get coverage into those areas. So for instance, those real grades where the front and rear skirting isn't removable, you will want to do a coat that has the skirts open, and then you'll want to do a coat with the skirt closed. That way you get full coverage of the skirts in their open and closed configurations. Same thing with the legs. Like if you have a leg that has a lot of knee area exposed in one direction and then not in the other direction, you may want to do it in this direction first, then articulate it and do another wet coat in this articulation. That way the knee within is fully covered. It all depends on the kit you are coating and what you want covered on it. In some areas, it may be negligible that you don't have to mask it or articulate it around. If you're doing a competition build, that may be something that you want to articulate around and get fully covered. Or maybe even do a partial assembly coat where you assemble the inner frame, spray that, and then add the armor pieces on afterwards. That way everything is fully coated from soup to nuts. Now this does have a nice flat coat to it. You can tell because my studio lights aren't washing the camera out. It's nice and flat. There's no shimmer or shine on this plastic, and it really does a great job finishing the kit off. This is what I would call a finished and completed kit. And it's very nice to get this Blast Impulse off my workbench. It's been sitting there waiting for the Delpy decals for quite a while. That's super, super tight. It's a very tight connection there. If you would like a spoiler for this real grade Blast Impulse Gundam review, I liked it a lot. It was quite a fantastic kit, and I liked the expansion gimmick of the blast cannons. I thought that was really cool. One thing you will notice is that with some decal brands, this says Long Range Beam Canum. It's legit Delpy. It's just a little bit of English isn't their primary language, so that's just what you have to deal with from time to time with these types of decal brands. Delpy and G-Rework are both Korean. Sometimes there's a little bit of translation issues there. I hope I put these on in the right orientation. So there we have it. We have fully completed this real grade Blast Impulse Gundam Spec 2. It's fully cleared, and it's got a very nice completed look and finish to it. It doesn't have that toy shimmer to it anymore. It looks like a war machine that's built for battle now. So now that we've covered how to do a clear coat using this real grade Blast Impulse Gundam Spec 2, we're going to do the same method for all the other kits here. The real grade Titans Mark II is going to be getting the Tamiya TS80 clear coat. The Murasame Kai is going to be getting the Testors Lacquer Dullcoat. The regular real grade Destiny Gundam is going to be getting the Revell matte clear coat. The real grade Destiny Gundam deactivated mode is going to be getting the Vallejo matte varnish. And then finally, the Destiny Gundam Spec 2 and Zeus Silhouette is going to be getting the Krylon 1311. Now, Krylon 1311 is a very hot spraying lacquer, and it doesn't mix well with metallic G rework decals. I experienced this on my real grade Epion with some metallic silvering that they had on their decals. The Krylon ate it right up, spiderwebbed it. It does not look great. And that's why I picked the Destiny Gundam Spec 2 and the Zeus Silhouette pack as the test bed for this Krylon 1311. While I know the risks of using the Krylon 1311, the Zeus also has some type of metallic silver decals on it. So I wanted to see if the Krylon would eat the Delpy decals as well, or if it was just the type of paper that's printed with the G rework decals versus the Delpy decals. So I'm really interested to see if this eats the Delpy decals, or if it's just a specific manufacturer thing going forward with G rework decals. Because this was my preferred can for many, many years and probably 60 plus kits or so. Most of my kits in this studio have been cleared with Krylon 1311. With that disclaimer out of the way, we've already cleared one kit, so let's clear the other 5 with the other 5 clear coats, and let's take a look at the results. Next, we're going to be using Testors Spray Lacquer Dullcoat with a Murasame Kai. So here we have a real grade Destiny that we're going to be spraying with the Revell Matte Clear. Jeez. I just want to say, look at how shimmery this is. This Revell comes out, I almost think it comes out too fast to even be useful. Like, this Destiny might be ruined because of this Revell, but we're going to continue spraying just to see. If I have to build another Destiny, then so be it. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be good results for this one. Like, look at how fast it comes out. I'm barely touching it, and it's coming out like crazy. Like, it's not a very user-friendly clear coat, and like, I'm holding the piece so far away, more than 12 inches, and it's like soaked. I'm holding the part more than 12 inches, probably 14, 16 inches away, and the piece is like soaked. So I'll be surprised if this isn't frosted after this initial first coating. This real grade deactivated Destiny Gundam with the Vallejo acrylic matte varnish. Yikes. This is already coming out super, super heavy. This thing is soaked. And again, similar to the Revell, I was holding it far away, at least 12 plus inches. So we're gonna have to see how this dries. Looks like it's going to be a catastrophe, which sucks because this is a premium kit, but let's give it the benefit of the doubt and keep spraying and see what happens. Yeah, look at that. That is absolutely soaked. So we're gonna let this dry and see what the first coat looks like once it's been dried. So here we have all of our kits next to the clear coats that they tested. So let's dive into this and see which of these clear coats works best for Gunpla. So we already sort of looked at this kit earlier after the tutorial, but if you skip that section, we'll take a quick look at the kit now, and we can see that this kit is pretty dull and it's doing a great job dispersing the light from all my studio lighting. There's no washing out of the colors here because the kit has been matte coated and the coating is pretty good. It's not taking the light, it's not reflecting it. It looks nice and flat, and that's exactly what we want. So this is one of my favorites of the bunch already. This was purchased from Hobby Lobby for $11. It's 4.4 ounces. The pros are is that it sprays really nice. It's really easy to control, has a nice nozzle on top of it, and it sprays in a nice volume, so you can spray it super lightly if you wanted to, or if you really wanted to spray it really heavily. I don't know why you would, but if you wanted to spray it heavily, you could just by holding it down longer. Once the kit is completed, it has a very nice finish, a very nice matte finish, and that's exactly what we're looking for. It has great coverage and it levels out wonderfully, so you don't have to worry about pooling on any parts or anything like that. This can is decal safe, so we don't have to worry about it eating decals. And you could probably get 1 or 2 kits out of 1 can rather than some of the others we're going to look at today. So this is already one of the winners of today, if not the actual winner. And that's why I picked Mr. Super Matte Clear for the tutorial portion of the video, because I really didn't want to screw up a premium Bandai Blast Impulse Gundam, and I knew that this was one of the better ones that we were going to be looking at today. The final verdict with the Mr. Super Matte Clear. This is now my go-to for clear coats. I've been using this since last summer when I ruined the real grade Epion with the Krylon 1311. Every kit has had a nice completed finish to it, and if you use this clear and use it well, starting with a few mist coats and then a wet coat, you'll have a great finished kit once you're all done. So let's move on to the next clear coat in our sequence, the Tamiya TS80. This is the real grade Gundam Mark II Titans version, and this was painted with the Tamiya TS80. The TS80 was about $10 from Hobbytown, and it's 3.3 ounces in this can. And this is a darker kit, so with darker kits, it's really easy to overspray your clear coat and frost the kit over. And I'm happy to say that didn't happen here with this Tamiya TS80. So that's a great test for this TS80 to see if it frosts over these darker colors. The decals on this kit are also G-Rework. This is the only kit in this video to use G-Rework decals. The other kits have been decaled with Delpy decals. So it's nice to see how clear coats interact with a different brand of decals. And I'll say that this Gundam Mark II Titans does look fairly good. There's a section in this hand. It's a little splotchy in here where there's this like recessed ridge on the wrist, but I think most clear coats are going to have a problem reaching into such a small little section like that down there. The shield also finished a little funky. It almost seems like it dried in segments despite being a mist coat and then 2 light wet coats. So the wet coats were all even. I'm not sure why it dried like that. I'm really hoping you can see this on the camera, but it looks a little funky there on the shield. But the rest of the kit does look pretty good. Not a bad runner-up to the Mr. Super Matte Clear. The pros to the Tamiya TS80 is that it has a really nice matte finish. Comparing these two, it's pretty much identical in terms of matte. It's not any more matte or flat coated than the Blast Impulse Gundam. So it's on par with the Mr. Super Matte Clear. The nozzle on the Tamiya can is super easy to use. It's super easy to control. This is probably the easiest to control clear coat spray that we used here. Definitely a little easier than the Mr. Super Matte Clear, just ever so slightly, but the nozzle on the Tamiya cans are very, very nice. Very easy to get a nice mist coat and then your wet coats as well. It's also a decal safe lacquer paint, so we didn't have to worry about the paint eating any of the decals, which is very nice. And lacquer is a pretty strong paint as well, so there's going to be some nice protection on the kit and the decals themselves. The cons with the TS80 is, like with the Shield, it seemed to dry funky, even though the leveling of the paint was pretty nice. The leveling was consistent, so I'm not sure why it has this like weird spotting here. It does also need about 3 coats to get this full effect here. And with a 3-ounce can, that's not very good, because to be honest with you, I actually had to run out and get a second can to finish this Gundam Mark II off. So this kit plus the accessories needed a whole second can for its 3rd coat. So the Tamiya TS80 is a nice runner-up to the Super Matte Clear. I did have a small issue getting into this small gap, but like I said, I think really any clear coat would have an issue filling in this gap here in the wrist. So I don't think that's just a Tamiya problem. It's a decent paint, but it's a little expensive for what it is, and definitely needs some attention to get it to finish as evenly as the Mr. Super Matte Clear, like we saw with the Shield. This will be a clear coat to work in a pinch. If I didn't have access to the Mr. Super Matte Clear, this would probably be my next pick. However, it's still not better than the Super Matte Clear. So let's move on to the next color in our sequence, the Testors Lacquer Dullcoat. This is the Testors Lacquer Dullcoat. I got this for about 10 bucks from Hobbytown, and there's 3 ounces in this can. So taking a close look at the Murasame Kai, up here on the chest, we can see that the finish is not very good. It's very, very splotchy, and that's despite a very, very even coating. On the back, on the wings here, we can see that it's not a good finish. It looks like crap. It kind of looks like felt, if that makes sense. It's got like a felty type of texturing to it. So it doesn't even look nice and flat. It just looks like crusty. This is not a good matte clear. It's got a very poor finish on this Murasame Kai, which is upsetting because this was one of my favorites of last year. It also looks like we have some flaking here in the finish as well. This was sprayed the exact same way as the others, a mist coat and then a very couple of light wet coats. This is inconsistent by comparison, and it shouldn't be that way. Not a very good finish. Now the legs look fine, but the legs are also a lighter color, so this can't even handle darker colors, but the Tamiya TS80 could. So this is not a good pick. I'm already telling you to stay away from this before we get into the pros and cons of this paint. I mean, take a look at the Shield. It's again got that same type of felty type of texturing. It just doesn't look like metal. It doesn't look like a toy. It doesn't look like a war machine. It looks like it's been molded. It looks like it's about to start molding. I mean, down here we got like little spattering. This is not a good pick for a clear coat. So I'm already telling you to stay away from this. The pros for this, there's not really any pros, right? It's $10 for 3 ounces, not even 3.3 ounces like with the Tamiya TS80. So it's the same price. I guess you could say that the pros are that it's a decal safe type of lacquer paint, but what's the point of the paint if it gives you a finish that looks like mold? You know what I mean? It's not worth it. It's definitely not worth it, and it's not like I used the paint incorrectly. This is just how it came out with the finish. All of these kits were painted on the same day with the same conditions with the same technique, and this is the only one that's got a finish that's this terrible. This might be the clear loser of the day, just based on how this came out finished. So I might try and salvage this. Maybe I'll do like a gloss coat to kind of bring those colors back and then use a different clear coat on it. Or, you know, this Murasame Kai will just live on forever as a test unit that has It looks like this thing's been in storage and it's been mothballed and it's been growing mold. So in terms of pros, it's a decal safe lacquer. But with the cons definitely outweigh the pros here because the finish is terrible. It seemed to level okay, but the leveling must not have been okay if it dried like this and looks this much like hot garbage, especially with this spattering here. I mean, the whole kit was evenly coated. So that doesn't make any sense at all to me, why this finished the way it did. It's definitely too expensive for what it is, $10, and I only finished one kit. The can's completely empty, so it's not like I could use that to try and fix and salvage this, and I'm definitely not gonna go buy another can of this if this is the finish that we have out of it. Stay away from the Testors lacquer, it's definitely not worth it. There are only cons with this can. So I think we've beaten up on the Testors lacquer. We know that it is garbage. So let's move on to the next can in our sequence, the Revell Clearcoat. So here we have the Revell 34102. I got this from the Hobby Emporium for $9, and it's got 3.3 ounces within. Taking a quick examination at the Destiny here, I'm so happy and so surprised with this finish because remember, as we were spraying, I was worried that this was going to be ruined, that this was going to be frosted over, and that I would have another frosted Destiny, and that I would have to build another Destiny to replace it. But I'm happy to say that this kit finished extremely well. In terms of a dull finish, it actually looks like it's a little more duller than the Mr. Super Clear, just a little bit more. Like the Mr. Super Clear catches the light a smidge more. I mean, we're really splitting hairs here, but it does look flatter than the Mr. Super Clear, which is nice. And it really kind of makes these colors pop a lot while also being flat. So I'm extremely, extremely surprised and impressed with this Revell Flat Clear. Take a look at the shield. Remember, I stopped the video to comment on how wet the shield looked, and look at it. It's got a fantastic finish, and it was soaking wet. So I don't know how they do it. Maybe there's some voodoo magic within this can, but it's a pretty good can. Pretty good clear coat here. So the pros for the Revell is that it has a fantastic matte finish and it really makes the colors look great. And that makes this kit look phenomenal. It's even a little bit flatter than our already predetermined winner, the Mr. Super Matte Clear. It's a little bit flatter than that color. So if you wanted a really, really super flat Gundam or Gunpla, whatever you're building, this would work pretty good for that if you wanted something super flat, super matte. It's also a decal safe clear coat. None of these decals have been damaged. There's no shriveling. It didn't eat into any of the decals. All the panel lines are nice and safe here. Even these longer decals, everything is nice and flat and looks great. It's really a great finish here on this kit. Another pro I want to state here is that it levels nicely once it dries. But this goes hand in hand with one of the cons, because starting the cons off, I'm going to talk about how scary this is to apply because it comes out in such a high, fast volume. So this isn't easy to control. It has a fine nozzle, but it's not easy to control the volume of the paint coming out from this can. And that's ultimately the Achilles heel with this Revell top coat. So while it levels okay, it's hard to tell that it levels okay because basically your parts are swimming in an ocean after you've even barely pressed the nozzle. Anytime I barely pressed the nozzle, a whole part would get soaked, as we saw with the shield, which is disappointing because this really could have been the underdog of the day. Now the high volume spray is a twofold issue. It wastes a lot of material shooting right past the kit. So you cover some of the kit, but a lot of that paint gets wasted and goes right through the spray booth and out. So you miss a lot of parts and you waste a lot of material here just with the high volume spray from this can. Technically, I didn't even finish this Destiny Gundam to my standards because I have 2 coats on the Destiny, these bigger accessories like the beam cannon and the sword, as well as the shield, and it definitely needed that second coat because the first coat was very splotchy. So that second coat helps even everything out and level it all out, which is good. However, because the volume sprays so much, I wasn't able to second coat every single piece, so the regular beam rifle and a few of the other hands I didn't have enough material for. This can is completely empty. There's nothing else I could squeeze out of this. But this really could have been the underdog for the day. It's priced better than the Tamiya as well as the Testors, and it has a fantastic finish. So this might be useful in certain cases where you want a little bit more of a dull finish to your Gundam. But it's also acrylic, so it's not as sturdy as a lacquer paint. That means as we articulate things, it is more liable to scratch up the paint itself. So definitely something you want to be mindful of as you articulate the kit around. With the Revell top coat covered, let's move on to the Vallejo matte varnish. This is the Vallejo matte varnish. I got this from the Hobby Emporium for $14.75, so basically 15 bucks. And there's 11 ounces of material in here, so there's quite a bit within here. However, is it actually useful? I don't know. Taking a quick look at this deactivated Destiny, there's definitely a lot of shimmer and shine to this. It's catching my studio lights like no problem. This is more of a satin finish. This is way more satin than matte. It also feels a little punky. It doesn't feel like it's fully cured, and this kit has been completed for 2 whole days, right? It's been sitting here for 2 whole days completed. So I'm not really sure what the deal is here, but this is not a good matte coat based off the fact that we're going for a matte finish and we have a satin finish here. So this is, it's a cool finish. It's not a matte finish. That's just how it is. This is satin. Like comparing the two, this is a matte finish. This is still catching so much light from my studio lights, so it's not a good matte top coat. So I guess the only pro that we have here is that you have a lot of volume with this can, but this is also a $15 can. What else am I going to do with this can? Because I'm obviously not going to use it for Gunpla. The cons for this spray is that it sprays on too high of a volume, very similar to the Revell. However, unlike the Revell, where the Revell leveled out nicely, this didn't. We can see down here at the tips of these wings, there was some pooling on these wings because it sprays out so heavy and so thick. It's not an easy can to control. It doesn't have a nice nozzle like the Tamiya or the Mr. Super Clear. I would also wager to say that the drying time is too long. I mean, even right now, it's a little punky still, and I don't know why. It's been long enough. This should have cured. Even have some pooling up there on the shoulder. I mean, it looks okay from like 10 feet away, but as you get closer, you can really start taking a good look and pointing out all the imperfections in the finish here. So it doesn't finish very good. It doesn't level well. It sprays on way too thick. It's not even technically a matte finish here. It's expensive, and while the volume included would be very nice if it actually gave us a matte coat, it gave us this weird coating. It smells terrible. The kit still smells like rotten eggs. This does not smell good at all. It's not good. It's pretty bad. If you wanted a type of satin finish, for whatever reason, if you wanted a bunch of satin looking Gunpla, this would probably be pretty good because you could finish a lot of kits like this. This is definitely the worst top coat that we've looked at today, just based on everything around it, the level, the finish, its spraying application, and ease of use. It's not a good fit. It's not a good can. So I would tell you not to use it. Straight up, don't use this. It's not good. This is the worst finish that we've looked at today. So let's move on to the last test, and that is the Krylon 1311 with the Destiny Gundam Spec 2 and the Zeus silhouette. So here we have the Destiny Gundam Spec 2, and the Krylon Matte Finish 1311. Now 1311 is what I used for many years to finish many kits. However, I stopped using it primarily after the real grade Epion incident, but I'm happy to say that it is decal safe for these Delpies. So it must just be whatever type of decal paper is used on those G Rework metallics, because this came out pretty good. There's no shriveling, it didn't eat any of the decals at all, and it has a really nice even finish to it. You can see why I used this Krylon 1311 for such a long time. Here is the Zeus silhouette, and here is the metallic type of decal here, and it didn't affect this decal at all whatsoever. Please ignore my poor placement. This decal was very hard to place. But yeah, I mean, look, it says Zeus silhouette. There's no spotting, there's no shriveling. The decal looks perfectly fine. And the finish on the Zeus here is pretty good. I think out of all the cans here, I'd have a hard time covering the entire Zeus plus the Destiny with just one can. The only one that might be able to do it would be this Mr. Super Clear, but I would probably still need 2 cans to do the 3 coats of it, because this is just a monster of a kit. It's massive. So I'm happy that I used the Krylon 1311 on this as a test, because it gave me the volume to finish this kit off. Now the 1311 has a lot of pros. It's easy to find. It's at Hobby Lobby, it's at Walmart. It's cheaper, it's 10 bucks. It's got a high volume, it's got 11 ounces within the can here. So for big projects like the Destiny Zeus, the Destroy Gundam, the Dendrobium, a perfect grade, you could get some really decent coverage out of it. You may only need 1 or 2 cans for those really big perfect grade type kits, or maybe even 1 can for a PG, versus the Mr. Super Clear, where you might need 1.5 to 2 cans for a perfect grade or those larger types of kits. The 1311 has a wonderful finish. It levels out very nicely, and the price for the volume is perfect. 10 bucks and 11 ounces. That's better than all the rest here. Now the cons with 1311 is that it's extremely volatile. You need to know when to use it, and you need to be very light with your mist coat with these decals. So it's a use at your own discretion type of clear coat. I'm not recommending that you use this unless you know how to use this. So test it out a million times, get an early grade, decal your early grade. That way, if you waste an early grade, you're out $8, right? You're not out $70 for a Zeus and Destiny Gundam Spec 2. Think of it that way. I always have an early grade lying around as a little test bed for things like this. So that's a big con, is that you need to be really experienced to get the most mileage out of the 1311. It's got a high margin of error, so you just really need to know what you're working with here. I also wouldn't use this on any G Rework decals that use a metallic in them, as it's liable to eat it. It's just something with the paper of the decal and the 1311 that eats it. But at least with Delpy, it seems to be safe with metallic type decals and this matte finish. Another con with the 1311 is that while it's easy to control, it's a very hard nozzle. So your finger is gonna get pretty fatigued by the time you're done with your painting session. And I know that makes me sound super weak, but it's a very hard nozzle. And when you're trying to do those little like for the mist coats, you want to be extremely precise with it, and this can makes it a little difficult because it's such a hard nozzle. I would say that would be another type of con here, is that while it has a nice finish, it levels nice, it is a little more difficult to control over some of the others here. And that about wraps up our clear coat shootout. So let's put these guys into a sort of tier list, and let's take a look at the final results. So the clear winner today is going to be Mr. Super Clear Matte Finish. I don't think there's any surprises there to that. A decent runner-up would be the Krylon 1311 Matte Clear. However, with that giant asterisk that it's not super safe on all decals and all finishes. So just keep that in the back of your mind. If you want something that's always decal safe, use Mr. Super Clear and you should be all set, and you can ignore this But for its price and availability, its finish, and how it levels out, the Krylon 1311 is really, really, really good. It just includes that giant caveat that it's a very hot spraying clear, so I can't recommend it unless you know how to use it. Another thing I wanted to say about the Krylon 1311 is that it will eat acrylic paint, so it's not a good can if you're working on a fully painted project. Some lacquers will eat acrylic paint no matter what. Even Mr. Super Clear tells you not to spray this over aqueous paint because it will eat it. So you definitely need to make sure, if you're doing a fully painted project, that your paints aren't going to interfere with one another. That's a separate topic for another video, so please keep that in the back of your mind. The first runner-up is going to be the Gundam Mark II Titans with the Tamiya TS80 lacquer, so this is B tier. The third runner-up today is going to be the real grade Destiny Gundam and the Revell. It's really only C tier just because of its volume and how little you get, but the flat, super flat finish is undeniable. That looks incredible. Starting off our F tier, we have the Murasame Kai with the Testors Spray Lacquer. I would not use this at all. I would prefer to just leave the kit uncoated, because this is not a good product for Gunpla. I'm not sure how it works on, say, car models or plane models, but this does not work very good for all these finite details on Gunpla with all these raised ridges and things such as that. Levels poorly. It has a terrible finish. This Murasame Kai looks like it's been sitting in a moldy warehouse for years. So I would recommend not using this at all whatsoever. And our clearest loser of the day is going to be the Vallejo Matte Varnish, which is really kind of more of a satin, mostly because the kit smells like stinky eggs. It doesn't have a good finish. It doesn't level very good. It has a way too high spray volume to even be useful. It's a 10 feet away kit. It looks great from 10 feet away, but the closer you get, the worse it looks. So here is our final ranking. Up here we have A tier with Mr. Super Matte Clear. This is the clear winner of the day. We also have Krylon 1311, which is another great option with a massive asterisk. Do not use unless you know what you're doing with it. In B tier we have the Tamiya TS80. It's a definite step down from the Mr. Super Matte Clear, but it's still good. It's like a good number 2. In C tier, we have the Revell, and really the only thing bringing it down is its high spray volume and its poor leveling for its first coat of finish. It really needs that second and third coat to finish a kit, and you do not get enough material in the can to complete those other third coats, and that's what really brought it down a lot. It's cheaper than these other 3-ounce cans, but you're gonna need to even finish one project, so you know, the price, it kind of ends up being more expensive than these others. And we've already talked about these F tier cans ad nauseum, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Don't even waste your money or time buying these products. They are not worth it, and they don't give you a finish that is worth your Gunpla being wasted on them, because this looks okay, but like I said, definitely would have looked better with any of these other mattes. In fact, the Revell Super Flat Clear would probably look fantastic on this deactivated Destiny. So because this is acrylic, I might get another can just to put specifically on this one, just for that extra super flat look. The Revell is actually the flattest coat here, with the others in B and A tier coming in as a close second behind the Revell. But at the end of the day, it has to go to Mr. Super Matte Clear. It really is just the clear winner. 4.4 ounces, $11. You could probably finish 2 kits with it if you really wanted to, if you knew how to squeeze it out of the can as much as you could. I do love the Krylon 1311, but like I said, it's very not user-friendly, so it's hard to recommend. So that's going to do it for me in this video. I hope you enjoyed this video where we learned how to clear coat a kit and we checked out all these other clear coats. I hope you learned a lot here, because clear coating really is the final step to finishing off your Gunpla. And I know that there is a lot of worry because it's the last step. You don't want to ruin your Gunpla at the last step. There's no worse feeling than that. So if you don't want to ruin your Gunpla at the 11th hour, get Mr. Super Matte Clear. It's the clear winner here today. I want to thank you all so much for tuning into this video on Joe's Gunpla Garage. This was a lot of fun to make. I originally was going to buy like 6 or 8 different early grades and decal them. But my other project that I was planning on releasing this week had a delay with the decals and some paint. So I said, crap, I need to film something. So here we have it. And I'm just happy that none of my kits were really kind of ruined other than this Murasame Kai. It's a little ugly. I'm gonna try to fix it maybe with some other type of clear. I'm gonna have to try and fix that. But yeah, my original plan for this video was to get like 6 early grades and do a clear coat shootout, but we did it with these much more valuable model kits, and I'm happy with the results here because it's nice to get all of these off my work in progress shelf. I just want to give a huge shout out to all my subscribers. You guys have been fantastic lately. All your nice and wholesome comments have been very much appreciated, and I'm happy to still be able to bring you guys this Gunpla related content. I wouldn't be here without you guys, and I hope that we continue to grow and build this great community and that we get to learn a lot here and build a lot of really cool stuff. So until the next video, stay safe, have fun, and happy building.